And especially when you are developing UI in Angular, suppose you are creating filtering, you are creating sorting, you are creating page navigations, icons, symbols are very commonly required. Then you can handle them easily. That means, for example, if you are designing a button, you can apply the font awesome classes like this. Now example is you can apply like this. And here font awesome is applied. Font awesome is applied like this. So FA is the class. In that FA home. So you will learn, you will use in various occasions how to handle them. Actually, we need different types of symbols. And all those symbols are available. Different types of symbols we need to design. All those symbols are available. Right, we will understand about how to deal with them. In various occasions, we can use those symbols, right? Yeah. So we will see all of them. No need to remember those symbols and icons. What you have to do is you can go to that website, Font Awesome. You can search for that icon you are looking for, and you can put it in the website. So that means that is the Font Awesome site. In the Font Awesome site, actually you will find icons category. You can go to icons, or there is directly search icon. In search icon, I went, for example, I some home, and I searched for that, and you can see it will give you the home icon related symbols. And what you need to do is the home icon related these symbols, you need to keep that. You can see these are home icon symbols. And if you click on any symbol, then it will get you the symbol related you can see it will get you the symbol related options. It says that you can use FAS and FA home. These are the classes. Actually, we don't need FAS. We can directly use FA and FA home, right? You can use FA home. The class names you can know here and you can apply them, right? So that is very commonly required. That's the reason we need to understand about them, right? Yeah. So this is preparing our UI properly for designing the components, right? So when you are designing the components, you need bootstrap. I showed you the process. Actually, we are using bootstrap 4.5. That's the reason bootstrap 4.5 don't have icons and symbols separately. They removed that. Actually, in early versions, we have xylophonic symbols. Those xylophonic symbols are gone now. That's the reason now you have to download this Font Awesome and use it for your project. The process, how to do that, I showed you, right? So this is the basic preparing of UI. Now, after understanding this, every day we will directly apply these effects and make the presentation more better. Next important you need to understand in our Angular is about data binding in Angular. We need to understand about data binding in Angular. How to handle data binding in Angular. Actually, what is the concept of data binding and how data binding works for Angular? That is important part. So technically, what is data binding actually? The concept data binding is nothing but, so data binding is a technique, is a technique that defines how data is accessed and binded. Data is accessed and to binded to view UI. Data binding is a technique that defines how data is accessed and binded to UI. Actually, how data is accessed and binded to UI. That means data data comes from data comes from data comes from um, business logic, business logic. So which you have to which you have to bind which you have to bind with the UI, with the UI. Data comes from the business logic which you have to bind with the UI. Angular actually Angular uses frameworks like MVC and MVVM implicitly. Angular uses the frameworks like MVC and MVVM implicitly. So hence data binding is controlled by these frameworks. Data binding will be controlled by using these frameworks. Earlier in JavaScript and jQuery, data binding is a big issue. In JavaScript and jQuery, data binding is an issue. Lot of DOM manipulations are required. Means you have to collect data from a control, and the data that you collected from a control, you have to display the data. Whatever the data you collected from a control, we have to display the data. Lot of references, lot of configurations are required. Means get element by ID and send to another element, show inner HTML, inner text. That's a lengthy process actually. But the frameworks like MVC and MVVM that allows to handle data binding with simple approach. So actually earlier we need to use a lot of events also. Now you don't need any events. We don't need much events for data binding especially, because this MVC framework will control it. So how this MVC framework works, that is very important for a Angular developer to understand, because Angular implicitly uses the framework MVC and MVVM, both of them. So in a single application, both frameworks will work. In a single component, both frameworks will work. Depending on our requirement, we need to use what is necessary for that situation. So to understand data binding, Angular developer should know about this MVC framework. So that means you need to first know, so what is MVC and how MVC framework works. And you should also know what are the benefits of using this framework in Angular. Remember, Angular uses MVC, MVVM client side. MVC, MVVM are used server side also. Server side, Java, .NET, PHP, such technologies use server side. Angular using this framework client side. Then concept will be same. Little bit variation in the approach will be different. Like I will tell you. Actually, generally, Angular developer should know about MVC framework, MVVM framework.